So we're here at the MOT centre, let's see if she passes. So we're looking good so far. The car's just gone off for its road brake test because it's four-wheel drive. They can't do it on the actual MOT testing rig. So he's put a gyrometer in and he's gone to test the brakes. So fingers crossed, hopefully that should be a pass when he comes back. So just on the way back from MOT, that's not good. Got a warning light on. And if I try and boost it, hits boost cut straight away. So I'd say we've probably got a split in one of our hoses on the turbo system somewhere. We've got a vacuum leak or something. Might be an intercooler pipe or charge pipe, or even the elbow that comes off the main charge pipe into the turbo. So I'm gonna have to look into that. So we've just landed back from the MOT, so let's have a look at the result. Clean, pass, no advisories. Well chuffed with that. The only thing he did say, which he wasn't going to advise, is a slight blow on the exhaust, but we're going to deal with that going forwards anyway. So really happy we can now get it out on the road. Now the only thing that I've found at the minute is I've got an ABS light on, which isn't on at the minute. I need to sort out, find out what's kicking that off. There might be a bit of air in the system, so I'll get the diag out and have a look. And then I'm also getting an intermittent flashing engine management light as well when I'm on boost, which I think is to do with the potential boost leak, because it's boost cutting like anything. As soon as I hit the throttle, it starts to boost cut. So as you can see by the Carista scan that I've just done, it's thrown up an intermittent misfire on cylinder 2. I've cleared the codes, I've gone a quick drive, I can't get it to replicate the problem. I think that only clicked in once I'd kind of hit high boost. I was going down through the lanes, giving it some beans, and really the engine really started to flutter and stutter. It really struggled. And then I had the engine management light click on and off intermittently, kind of flicking on and off, which I've not seen before. So I don't think it is. I thought to start off with it might be coil packs. I thought it might be something to do with the spark plugs, but I don't want to jump in and start replacing parts for the sake of it. I think first we need to investigate any potential boost leaks. I think if it's a big enough boost leak, then that can cause the engine to misfire. So let's get the bonnet open, let's start having a look. I've also ordered the stuff to fit a boost gauge, which is going on the A-pillar. So we'll get that fitted as well, because that'll give me an idea of what's actually going on with the PSI and when it's dropping the pressure, at what point it's dropping the pressure. So we've had some goodies arrive. We've got a boost gauge pod, which will go onto the A-pillar. We have the actual gauge itself, which isn't lit up at the minute. You can see that's from -30 up to +35, which is more than what we need. I've bought a separate blue vacuum hose, 4mm, that goes straight onto the nipple on the back of the valve. And we have some wires. So, as per form, the black one's for ground, the yellow one is live. So we need to feed these, remove the A-pillar cover, feed these down behind the dash. These need to go to the fuse box, and we're going to piggyback a switched live off the ignition and find a ground for that cable. And then this hose needs to go through the bulkhead into the engine bay, and we'll tap in to where the vacuum line goes into the fuel pressure regulator. Okay, so that's how our boost gauge is going to sit, obviously straight. What I need to do is get the heat gun on this plastic enclosure and just mould it a little bit more to the A-pillar, which should be easy enough to do. So we've got that A-pillar cover removed. It just literally pulls off. You have to be careful with the clips. There's some metal clips that go into these fittings here. 1, 2, 3, then it clips in down the A-pillar down there, and that'll give us obviously plenty of room to get in down the back of the dash. So I've got the cover off, and one thing I have noticed though is it seems to have, is it? It's like a solid ABS reinforcement running down it. So I need to make sure where I mount the gauge isn't going to interfere with any of them clips. So I'm going to go and get a hole drilled in this and I'll be back in a second. So we're back in my messy workshop. I've marked roughly where I need the hole for the pipes and cables from the gauge, and I've drilled that out with a step bit. Now what I'm going to do is, there's a little bit of loose material, so I'm going to peel this material back, and I've got some contact trim adhesive. I've got this left over from when I've done my T6 lining. So I'm going to peel this back, spray it all down, re-stretch the material back over so it just looks a little bit neater. That's all the material re-stretched out. There are some glue marks on it, don't worry about them. They will hit up with some brake clean once it's dry, and that'll just rub straight off. So now we can go get this refitted with a gauge. Okay, so we've got that set through there. We've got the cables and the vac hose coming through, and we've bent that pod to sit better on there using the heat gun. So what I need to do now is extend these cables here, which I'll solder them and heat shrink them, and then make sure we've got enough to get through the dash down into the fuse board. Let's go get it refitted. The cables are run down the side of the dash. We've dropped the knee part of the dash off. Both cables come through. I've fed the boost pipe through under the steering column. Now I need to find a route down behind the dash through, drop this out, and then go through the grommet in the firewall here and down to the fuel pressure regulator. I've put the live cable through into the fuse box, which we're going to use this pigtail for. And then the negative, or the ground, is through here, and we're going to try and get onto the ground on the terminals just down there. We can't really see it, it's a bit dark probably, but past that bracket there there's a ground, and then there's a switch live, but for this instance, because I want it fused, we're coming off the fuse board in the side. So we've got the piggyback fuse into a 5 amp, and I've put a 5 amp fuse in for the line as well. If we look in here, you'll see I've run the red wire to that earth point there, to that ground, and then we've got to feed that blue pipe down behind the dash somehow. I'm trying to find a gap to get that through. So that's just connected in. So if I turn the ignition on, let's see if we get, there we go, perfect. Now we've just got to connect up the vac line. Right, so we've stripped the glove box out, and to do that there was 2 screws there, and then there was 3 across the bottom, no, 3 across the top, sorry, and one in the bottom right hand corner, which screws into there. We've ran the vac line underneath the dash there, we passed it right through behind the heater vent at the back, up behind this, well, up and over this bit at the back here, you have to go over that, then up through behind the cabling. If you see up into there, the little grommet that we've pushed aside, that's just behind the pollen filter in the engine bay. So if I take you through around here, so what I've got to do now is try and pop this waterfall cover off, try and get this vac hose through the grommet in the actual firewall, and then try and feed it out the bottom under the inlet, down past the puck. If we lift this up here, you see the fuel pressure regulator there, we need to tap into this vacuum hose here. And to do that, we've got to remove the strut brace, so I'm going to drop these off and hope we can get the cover off. Right, we're all connected up, so we've come through that waterfall tray. I've just notched a bit out the side there to bring the tube out without squashing it, under the intake, straight in, and we've teed it straight in to the fuel pressure regulator. I will put some zip ties around these just to give them a bit more surety. So that's all connected up. We've now got to bang the strut brace back on and the engine cover, and we'll give it a start and see if we've got pressure. We've got the strut brace refitted, we're up and running. We're all connected in. If we go and take a quick look at the gauge, we should be showing negative pressure, hopefully. Pretty stable pressure as well. So there we go, we're sitting at about minus 12, 13. And if we give this, it's not warm yet, it's not going to rev too much, but give us a little blip, see it going up. So hopefully that's a success. Also we've got an airbag warning because we've got the glove box out, we've disconnected some of the cables. We'll get that reconnected. Now, I've had a look at the N249 and I can't see any cracks or any splits in any of the pipework, although sometimes it's hard to tell. So if you look down into that spaghetti mess down there, I get you a good view on it. I think the PCB, sorry over here, is absolutely caked in oil though. So I think that's our culprit for our vacuum loss. I had a suspicion it might be. View of what's happening currently with the vacuum and the boost. So we've just started the car, it's idling, it is on automatic choke at the minute, so we're sitting at about 1100 RPM and we're currently sitting at around about 13 on the vacuum scale in HG, right, which is basically barometric pressure. So we're either on, if we're above 0, we're on boost, if we're below 0, it's vacuum. So we're just going to take it a quick spin to see if I can show you the boost cut that we're seeing. So first gear, as mentioned, no boost, just vacuum. Second gear, we're building up to about 8 psi. Third gear. Third gear, about 5 psi. Ignore that draft noise, it's the window. I've got to adjust the window height to come in a later video. So we're in fourth gear now. If we give it a quick blip, that went up to 20 psi. I don't know whether you've seen that or not. Shouldn't be going up that high, not on a standard map. I think you should top out around about 11 psi. Shouldn't be any more than that. So again, let's try that experiment again. First gear, little to no boost. Second gear, didn't quite hit 5. Third gear, hit 10. Now fourth gear, that's about 15 that time. So we didn't peak as high. Let's try again. Got to about 15. So it is overboosting, unless it's been mapped, of course. That is the other thing. I know nothing about this car, remember. So it could be running like a stage 2 map, or a stage 1 map even. It won't be a stage 2 because it hasn't got the modifications to support stage 2. But potentially a stage 1, which, depending on who's mapped it, the boost cut will be set differently. It does boost strong. It boosts very, very strong. But N75 should have a preset boost cut in here. Unless, of course, the actual diverter valve itself is kaput, which could be the issue. I mean, it's not. Yeah, it's the diverter valve, isn't it? I literally, this is raw me thinking out loud. You are getting into the inner depths of my brain, which is not a good place for anybody to be, but you'll see how I kind of think. But so the conclusion and assumption, well, the working assumption I'm going with now is that the diverter valve is FUBAR. Okay, so the first thing we need to check is the N75 valve, which is the valve that opens the wastegate, or the diverter valve, under boost pressure. So we need to pull this connector off of here. It's sometimes easier said than done. There we go. And it's not the cable side, it's actually the valve side we need to check. So I have my multimeter, which has the ability to measure resistance, which is this sign here and that sign there next to the M. So if we check the operation of the multimeter first, by just touching the probes together, we should get a reading of 0, because there's no resistance there at all. Any metal object that a current passes through will have a resistance. Okay, so for instance, if we were to check between the air intake manifold and the negative, because we run a common ground system on the car, it's 0.1. So the acceptable range for the N75 is between 25 and 30 ohms. So if we prop that there, what we need to do is get one probe on one pin and the other on the other. If you watch the meter, 28.1. So it should be between 25 and 30, so we're bang in the realms of where we should be with that. 28.1. So there's nothing wrong with the N75 valve, so that should operate as normal. So if we connect that back in, give it a good squeeze, push it in. The next thing we need to check is the N249. So this system takes a vacuum line off the intake manifold underneath, and effectively what it's a series of valves. What it does is it stores vacuum pressure in this reservoir here, and in the event that the engine needs to open the diverter valve to release the pressure off the turbo, and for instance it might be that we've not got enough boost to open the valve by the N75, then the N249 can kick in and use the vacuum that's stored in here to open that valve. So the only kind of scenarios I can think that this would happen is if you're going on to boost and the engine starts to run lean, so it gets trim errors on the ECU, so then it kicks in the N249 to open the diverter valve to stop it boosting. So that was one of the plausible things I thought might be happening here, because every now and again we lose boost. We don't lose it every time, it happens every now and again. So we've got an overboost condition in 4th gear and above. So obviously 1st gear is retarded, so that the boost doesn't cut in barely at all. 2nd gear we get about 5 psi, 3rd gear we run up to about 10-11 psi. 4th gear we're running up to 20. Now that's one of two things. One is the car's been mapped and it's running a stage 1, a poor stage 1 tune, and it can't deal with the overboost. Number 2, which is the more likely, is that this recirculation valve has failed. That should be cutting and opening and cutting the boost before 20 psi. So, and there's a 3rd scenario, which I really hope it isn't at the minute, which is that the turbo actuator is sticking, which is causing the turbo to stay open for longer, which is causing it to boost up. And obviously it's boosting to the moon, and it's the valve that's opening at 20 psi to cut it back. I don't know, I'm literally just spitballing here. If anybody's got any ideas better than me, no doubt, my crazy scientist mad brain, then hit me up in the comments, let me know. But logically I'm working it through, and it has to be this valve. Has to be. Don't think this is serviceable. Doesn't look like you can get it open. So we're either going to upgrade it for a forge or try and get a factory standard. I think I'd like to try and get a factory standard, because I want to get this operating before we start modifying, because I want to make sure there's no underlying problems that I've missed. But anyway, need to let things cool down, and then we're going to pull this intake manifold off. Now it's red hot, which was a really stupid idea, and tackle that catch can install. So first things first, find a suitable location to mount the catch can. So I want to mount it at the front here so it's easily accessible, so I can drain it off as and when I want to. So what I've done is pull this out a second. It's in quite well. That won't come out now, that's not a problem though. What I've done is actually cut a piece of the support away here, so I've removed the plastic cover, that's come off, fix that on, and once that's through there, that's pretty solid. What I'll probably do is just put a retaining screw through the top there, through the bracket, into the plastic, So this cover fitted back down is going to sit too proud, so we do need to trim some of the catch can away. So we'll trim some of this section out here. That'll still give us visibility of the catch can. That should work quite well. So what I've done in addition to cutting the hole is I've just drilled that through the aluminium bracket there, through this hard ABS plastic reinforcing piece, and I've used a 4mm tap just to go through and put a 4mm bolt, and loosely tight, it doesn't have to be overly tight, just to hold that in place. That's pretty solid now, that's not going anywhere. And that cover's going to sit over the top now as well, and that'll be secured down using some clips, so that's not going to move. So that panel's been trimmed away. I will tidy that up, give it a bit of a sand and take all the rough edges off. So that's the catch can hidden nicely under there now. I've still got room to get in and take the barrel off to empty it. Although I'm thinking about fitting a valve with a pipe off the bottom that I can just connect up underneath and just drain the catch can off when it gets full. So now that's done, we need to see about getting under here and trying to get the old PCV system out so we can start running pipes. So I've just removed the can and opened it up just to show you. So this has got a removable baffle in it, which has got the filter in. So if you want the filter to be on this side, you can flip it over, look, and reattach it. But this is the right orientation for our application. So that's obviously going to sit there, that's the filtered side. That's going to go into the T-piece coming out of the crankcase breather. And then the other side is going to go straight up to the puck. So, perfect. So update, here we go. So, I've got the catch can in. I've got the T in for the crankcase cover. I've got the flow in, return out into the puck, and that obviously goes down into the air intake pipe. I have removed mostly, let's try and get a good view, the PCV system, gone. But look at that, look, freaking snapped the elbow off right in the freaking crankcase. Damn it. So I've got to try and get that out now. I didn't really want to remove the intake manifold. I want to do the intake manifold at a later date because I want to paint it all up and smarten it all up, and I've got to do the rocker cover as well, so I was going to do them both together, but I might have to remove that intake manifold. I'm trying not to, but I might have to. PCV, splits in it all over the place, usual suspects, so I think that's definitely a leak, 100%. But anyway, I've got to try and now break up that without getting it into the flaming sump. Otherwise I'm pulling the sump panel. I'm going to pull the sump panel off eventually anyway, but I don't really want bits floating around my sump, so I've got to try and get that out in one piece. So I'm going to try and hammer down the side of it and just try and snap it in with my finger inside, just so I can catch the bits. But we'll see how we go. So finally got that bit that was stuck off the old adapter out. So you can see it's got a metal inner in it, reinforcing piece. The outside's plastic, so I've had to mangle the plastic up and smash all the metal up. That metal actually fell down into the sump and I managed to get my fingers down and just pull it back out. So yeah, now I've got to reinstall the new part with the O-ring and connect back up with the last bit of the catch can and we can give it a whirl. So we're up and running. The engine sounds so much smoother. The tick over is so much smoother. The revs are not fluctuating like they used to. We've put the new catch can in. So we've got the pipe running from the elbow down there. Runs down, put an elbow in there, it runs up, round into that elbow there. So we've got obviously the vapours coming out of there, down into the catch can, back out into the puck, and then back down into the air intake. Sweet, I like that. So I wanted to keep the puck obviously because it was quite a vital role in separating the oil and maintaining pressures. Happy days. So if we go and check the revs, Previously the revs were fluctuating quite badly. As solid as anything, and we've almost built almost 15 pounds of vacuum, or 15 in vacuum. That's a massive improvement. It's been a long day and I'm absolutely filthy, but I think it was worth it. So that tick over's salted now. It idles lovely, which is brilliant. Catch can's in. I have to say, I really like the way that I've installed the catch can. It's so much neater than ways I've seen it installed elsewhere. It's tied as the engine bay up lovely. So I'm going to order a new recirculation valve. So I think that's what's causing the overboost problem. And we'll get that fitted and see whether that makes a difference. Hopefully we'll get to a point where we're holding a stable level of boost. So we can't take it to the Nürburgring like this, because as soon as we get into fourth gear, it's just going to start freaking out. So, oh, let's try the acid test that everybody does. No. Oh well. It's worth a try. So that's a wrap for today, guys. So we've managed to get the catch can installed. I quite like the way I've done that. Again, I just need to tidy this edge up, but I'll get that done. It's quite discreet, can't really see it. So we've got all the pipe work in, and obviously we've put the new PCV delete elbow in down here, which is awesome. So we found out that we've got an overboost issue, which obviously we think is to do with the recirculation valve here. So I'm going to order a new one of them and give that a go. So thank you for watching, guys. As always, I really appreciate your support. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and catch you guys on the next one. Cheers.